First of all, let me thank Dr. Faizad Perry and the Association of Trinidad and Tobago in Texas for inviting me to this, your 15th celebrations of independence. And to tell you that I really treasure it because one of the things I love to do more than singing is talking. I don't get much chance to talk. And I'm very happy to be up here to celebrate with you in Houston. And first of all, let me say that in the course of my career up and down the place, all over the Western world, as it were, where I've traveled, I have met many, many peoples. And they have all been asking me about my accent and where I'm come from, etc. They have all been bewildered by my identity, what it is makes a Trinidadian. It is something that we Trinidadians sometimes take for granted. And it's something that I want to spend a few minutes on this afternoon. It is a well-known fact that in history, our peoples have come from Amerindians who crossed the Siberian, desert, as it were, during the Ice Age. Our people came as Europeans. They came as merchants, as planters, as missionaries, as slave owners. Our people came as enslaved Africans. Notice I didn't say slave. As enslaved Africans. Our people came as indentured servants. Our people worked very, very hard. Our people came as Syrians and Lebanese and Chinese as indentured servants. And they came and they met a lot of violence because what was indenture and enslavement was purely violence. And I don't want to go into that tonight because we don't have the time. But to give you an idea of the violence, very, very, very few persons lived in the age of slavery after the age of 28. 28 was considered to be a very, very old man. And to understand the violence, you must understand, as I tell the people in the Virgin Islands, no virgins ever landed in the Caribbean. And Eric Williams says, if you want to understand indenture, Eric Williams says, some people are angry at Eric Williams, he said that indentureship was slavery plus a constable. Some people are very angry at him. In other words, he was saying that some parts of indentureship was worse than slavery. So we don't want to go into that kind of violence tonight. But the point we want to ask tonight is, how did we, as migrants, survive that toil, that aggression, that oppression, that slavery? How did we pass those hundreds of years in that toil? While the overlords smiled and we toiled, how did we survive? Many history books have said that we survived because of family life, quite true. And we survived because of work, etc., quite true. But few history books have written that we survived mainly by two things, two concepts: our values and our traditions. I repeat, our values and our traditions. They have not been written yet in our history, some of our history books. When I speak of values, to give you an example, I don't have the time to give you all, but I'll give you a few. To give you some example of our values, we were taught, one, to show respect for elders. Both Africans and East Indians show great respect for our old people. We don't put our old people in homes. We keep our old people because our old people were the custodians of our morals. Two, we learned as a value to respect women to the extent that if a woman showed her private parts to you, then you had a curse. You had to go by a chief priest to take off that curse. Today a lot of curses are passing. Women were so respected that long ago, in the absence of police, we didn't need any policemen for our society. In the absence of police, when women were bathing by a river, men used to make noise that they may cover themselves when they're passing. One Calypsonian scholar or woman, he says, God's sanctimonious gifts of procreation. A Calypsonian. God's sanctimonious gift of creation. You can give him a clap, he's dead, but you're right here with us tonight. learn to discipline our children. Third value. Endless licks. Endless ringing of the ears. Some people call it abuse. But we learn to discipline our children. My mind brings me back, I'm sorry to have the time, but my mind brings me back to this young boy who came probably to Houston. Came back and he spent 3 years in Houston. And he came back to Trinidad. And when he came back to Trinidad, his grandmother tell him, grandmother gave him cuckoo to eat. He says, Granny, I ain't eating that. Granny said, why? What you eating? He says, I want Kentucky Fried. Granny said, no, you have to eat the cuckoo. He said, no, Granny, I don't have to eat the cuckoo. I have rights. What rights do you have? He said, Granny, I have 3 rights. I have human rights. I have constitutional rights. And I learned in America that I also have citizens' rights. Granny said, they didn't tell you I have 3 rights too? He said, yes, you are right, Granny. She said, yes. He said, Granny, what are those rights? Right number 1, eat the cuckoo. Right number 2, eat the cuckoo. And then she picked up her belt. Right number 3, eat the cuckoo. We learned the power of the extended family, our aunts, our uncles, our grannies, all living in the same house, passing on morals to us. We had a passion for education. We knew after slavery and enslavement that we had to be educated in order to survive, especially the East Indians who wanted their children to be doctors and lawyers. Why? Education. We had a passion for land, to purchase land and to own land, because we knew that that was our survival. We strove to get that land. Those were some of the values that we had. We also passed on traditions to our children. And in the absence of policemen and authorities, our traditions help us to survive. Traditions are all those musics and literature, etc., that we pass on from generation to generation. For example, the value of agriculture, to plant, or farming methods, to learn, we farm by the moon and all. We learn to use the moon, the slash and burn methods of the Amerindians. We passed on all these to our children. We learned the tradition of communality, where we shared everything in common. I have rice, you have cassava, pass some to the neighbor give me some, etc. We shared in common. We had our festivals, our carnival. And our carnival is not a celebration for tourists, as so many believe. Our carnival is a celebration of giving thanks to God. Some people are shocked. It is spirits who come on Carnival Day, where they meet with the mundane world, as it were, the Moko Jambi, overseeing the visions. Here they call him Moko Jambi. Why they call him Jambi? He's a spirit. Meeting to say thanks to God. And David Water says, Hallelujah. Our Father who has given us this art from heaven. Amen. See? David was right. So we learn what our carnival is all about. Sometimes I wonder today when I see all the women dressed up in a piece of thing here and a piece of thing there, they are spirits. And we have spread 100, ladies count, we have spread 143 carnivals in the world. Trinidad carnival, Trinidad style carnivals, 143 the last count. And we got traditions, we passed on traditions like the bush medicine, of using the herbs and the teas and for our ailments. Everything under the sun. The aloes today and the lime has nothing for us. We know all of that all along. All the aloes in the medicine today, we know all of that all along. My mother used to rub a lime under my arm. My mother used to rub a lime under my arm. We learned about beating, and beating the percussion that gave us the tassa and the steel band. It is our traditions of as J.D. Ellis says, of beating that gave us the percussion and the steel band. We passed on traditions of the chutney and the parang and the limbo and the calypso, especially the calypso, whereby we pull, as Shakespeare says, we pull feathers off the wings of our masters so that they can fly an ordinary pitch. And in that calypso, we pass on all the satirical things to our children, filled with satire. Sorry that some of the soca today don't have it, but look at the old calypso and you will see the satire that we passed on. Those were rich traditions. I must give an example of this one. You know, There was a preacher who once had sex with a goat. 1946 in Trinidad. A preacher had sex with a goat. The Calypso, that is food for Calypsonians. If it was today, the guys were saying, a preacher, boom, 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 had sex with a goat, boom, 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 boom. That is today. The satire. Everybody came in the Calypso tent, and the guy is singing about the preacher. But look how beautifully he puts it. Bear, bear. There's a preacher in the band with a candle in the hand giving a ram goat baptism. Those helped us to survive. Since you like it, I must give you this one because this one is a beautiful one. Eric Walcott once made a statement in Trinidad. He says, all Trinidadians like is carnival and sex. All Trinidadians like is carnival and sex. And unknown and same. Unknown singing is goodbye in the key. Unknown song, he says, Avex, Avex. Derek Walcott say, Trinidad is carnival and sex. Avex, till I forget Avex, Derek Walcott say, Trinidad is carnival and sex. Then we go back to St. Lucia, your mother country. There you find all kind of sexuality. Man marrying man, and it's still a lila. And Derek wouldn't say a thing about St. Lucia. I forget a bit. So. You think Shakespeare could compose that? We learned the art of, and we passed on the art to our children of giving fatigue, of giving picong on one another. And some of the picong that Trinidadians give, nobody else could give that kind of picong. They will kill you. My mind goes back to a good example in picong. Two fellas giving fatigue. And one fella says, and he rhyming, and one fella says, you know the old Sandy Manite, and he says, and he comes at the last and he says, but let me tell you this, brother, I going around with your sister. Another fella answered, the fella said, but let me tell you this, my friend, I going around with your mother. So the fella said, sister and brother rhyme, but friend and mother don't rhyme. Friend and mother rhyme, my friend, I going around with your mother. The fella said, that I rhyme? The other fella said, it ain't rhyme, but it's true. So we learn to give truth to fatigue. We learn storytelling and morals of the Bread Nancy and the Bro Lion, etc. And all these values and traditions kept us alive. All these values and traditions helped us survive in our new environment. So then you ask me, what am I telling you all of this for? These values and these traditions help build up our personality. These values is what gave us the identity. These values gave us our psyche. Why then am I telling you these? They helped us to survive in Trinidad and Tobago. They helped us to survive enslavement and indenture. They helped us to survive in New York and London, in Washington, and I'm sure in Houston. And if we are to be independent and to celebrate independence, then we have to hold on to these values. We have to hold on to these traditions. And if we want to survive, and above all, if we want our children to survive, then we have got to pass on these values and these traditions to our children. So independence must mean for us tonight the passing on of these values and these traditions to our children. I urge you, I beg you to do so. God bless you all.